Hello friends. There's an art and science behind good teaching, but it's also easy for teachers to get stuck in a routine, to keep their head down and maybe teach to the middle. More than ever, schools are a multicultural mix where teachers have different experiences, training and expectations, but with no easy way to come together with a shared understanding of high-quality learning. In this video, I'm going to demonstrate a practical toolkit that can literally be in everyone's hands, that's the result of 3 decades of experience of leading international schools around the world. Now, accredited schools have started to create their definition of learning within their school's unique context, but often lack the tools to translate this into a shared language and approach to impactful learning across the school. And we all know that there's an ever-increasing burden on teachers, often leaving them feeling burnt out. As leaders, we know how important it is to have a common approach to reduce the fragmented learning experiences for students, but also struggle to know how best to engage with teachers who often feel swamped by lengthy articles on educational theory and most certainly digital overload. The Learning Deck is a tangible card-based framework designed to provide a common language and approach to learning. This format encourages a more playful, visible, and interactive approach and get teachers away from sitting behind their laptop screens. The power of the Learning Deck is in its ability to simplify the complexities of learning, bridging the gap for teachers with diverse experiences and backgrounds, so that there can be a shared understanding of what's important and which provides concrete teaching strategies that align with impactful learning. The simple impact framework identifies common principles, which helps focus teachers to design learning experiences to inform, use guided inquiry, and ultimately inspire students so they develop a passion for learning, and where learners build strong relationships, enjoy their learning experiences, engage fully to maximize the learning process, and become empowered to apply their learning in positive ways. Of these 6 learning principles, 3 are very much within the domain of the teacher's design, while these other 3 are the anticipated ways in which the students are affected. This framework of learning principles naturally forms a table or matrix, where the different areas describe a different style of learning. Now, of course, there's a place for every type of learning activity. We all know how powerful social dynamics and emotional state is in learning, and so providing a strong and supportive learning culture within the classroom is really important. But we also know that effective schooling is much more than being nice to each other and making information available to learners. Let's take a pause for a moment and think about how AI is going to have such a monumental impact on our current and our future students. Now, 50 years ago, the introduction of the digital calculator shifted the world of mathematics education away from manual calculations towards applying mathematical knowledge rather than being bogged down in arithmetic. Students were expected to know how to use the calculator in more complex calculations, and importantly, to have a sense of whether the solution was correct. 30 years ago, the internet revolution changed the educational landscape again and showed us that memorizing data was irrelevant in a Google-driven world. But our students needed to have a sense of the authenticity of the data. And now, in the AI revolution, our children will have access to unimaginable power to create and manipulate data. So what? Well, with this backdrop, we have to prepare our children for this new world and recognize the enduring skills that are going to help them navigate this successfully. But what are these critical elements? Like with the introduction of the calculator and internet, our students need a sense of understanding if the data is correct. This takes critical thinking, to ask really good questions, and to use AI as a tool like any other tool that can do the heavy lifting, but without taking away our ability to understand and to think. Our students will need to collaborate and to communicate effectively, and to feel empowered to be able to apply their learning to new and evolving environments. And we need to ensure that our learners have the grit and determination that will help them succeed in this uncertain world. Think about it. Our teaching strategies therefore need to evolve to fully engage and empower learners while developing these higher order thinking skills. If learning is to be genuinely impactful, we need to craft learning experiences that balance skill development, conceptual understanding, and the character traits that are necessary for success. The learning deck takes the matrix of the 6 learning principles and identifies 9 personas that can illustrate the different learning experiences. These personas illustrate the learning impact for each, along with the teacher practices that would help support learning. From the relationship builder, inform and enjoy, the foundational element of all classrooms, to leverage social cohesion and love of learning, these personas help visualize how intentional strategies can empower learners and develop these highest aspirations of our learners for the 21st century. They provide an array of strategies to inspire and empower learners. And to further bridge the gap, to create impactful learning experiences, the learning deck comes complete with 5 sets of cards that cover assessment for learning, approaches to learning, questions for learning, language for learning or EAL support, and support for learning. Each of these supporting cards have the learning impact clearly articulated that traces back to the learning principles, along with practical examples or strategies on how to implement them in the classroom. So for example, imagine a new student was joining your class. Think how helpful it would be if the admissions process had identified some language needs or potentially some learning needs and could point to a card that would give you a starting point, some useful strategies for when that student joined your group. And think how that might be from the child's perspective, where there were consistent strategies that would be used in the different lessons. And let's not underestimate the importance of the other packs: assessment for learning, approaches to learning, and questions for learning. These cover precisely those strategies to help develop resilience, collaboration, growth mindset, and critical thinking that are so crucial for our learners. I know we're all experts in learning, and yet actually there's so many nuances to consider. So for example, here's one of my favorite cards from the Assessment for Learning pack. Asking a learner why may not be the optimal assessment question, as it can often trigger the need to defend their decision rather than exploring other possibilities with an open mind. Think about it for a minute. If you ask a child why did they make that calculation, why did they do something a certain way, they're not necessarily going to open up in the way that you think they would. Although the question is well-intentioned, it often triggers a more defensive strategy. So in order to encourage openness and constructive formative assessment, we need to think about some different questions. So on the back it says, opt for neutral, non-judgmental language that helps create a growth mindset. For instance, rather than asking, why did you do that, try, I'm interested to understand your thought processes behind this choice. Or, what were alternative thoughts that you had before deciding on that strategy? Hopefully this gives you something to think about and to pause and to reflect on. So there you have it. The Learning Deck helps provide a structure and language for a shared understanding of learning, from principles to practice to impactful strategies for teaching and learning. It provides a framework to help focus lesson planning, curriculum design, lesson observation, and professional growth conversations. Imagine being able to reflect on your lessons and visualize a kind of heat map to understand if you're having the kind of impact that you'd planned when you were trying to develop these traits of resilience or critical thinking. There's so much that can be done with a visual approach to teaching and learning. Join the waitlist for a customized learning deck. Each deck can be tailored to your school's definition of learning and mission statement and personalized for individual teachers. Thank you for your time.